third grade writers! So today I want to teach you that fairy tale writers use transition words and phrases to tie together different scenes in their story. Today, as you tell your story bit by bit, I want you to use transition words and phrases to move from one scene to the next. So there are many different transition words that you can use as you tell a story. So in the beginning of a story, you might use words like first, once, one time, once upon a time, one day, in the beginning. In the middle of the story, there are many more transition words that you might use. You might use then, next, later, second, soon, just then, while, during, when, after that, suddenly, and many more. And at the end of the story, you might use words like finally, last, in the end, at the end of the day, or at the end of the walk, eventually, or as a result. I'm going to show you how I used transition words in my fairy tale. So here's my draft of Little Pug Peralta Hood. I underlined all of my transition words in purple. As you can see, as I move through, I'm using transition words only when I shift to a new scene. So by new scene, I mean when I'm shifting to a new time or place or a new moment in the story. Once upon a time, there lived a joyful family of pugs. The Peralta Hood pug family lived on 63rd Street, a green tree-lined street where cats scampered into the bushes. Times were strange because coronavirus made it so that everyone needed to shelter in place. Little Pug Peralta had stayed inside for days. Her Zoom wasn't working, and she missed her friends. Little Pug Peralta Hood, don't you think it's time you went for a walk? You haven't exercised all week, Little Pug's mom called from the living room. I guess you're right, sighed Little Pug as she grabbed her coat and trudged down the stairs. As Little Pug Peralta Hood skipped along the sidewalk of 63rd Street, she smelled the sweet jasmine blossoms and watched a cat scamper through the shining green grass. It's so wonderful to be outside, she thought to herself. Just then, she saw a figure strolling towards her, hidden behind the birch tree. So far, as you can see, I used a beginning transition word in the beginning of my story when I said once upon a time. Then, now that I'm moving towards the middle of the story, I'm using words like as and just then to continue to tell my story using transition words and phrases. Big Pug Peralta, it's you, Little Pug cried. Little Pug threw up her arms, and it took all of her self-control not to run across the street to give Big Pug a hug. Little Pug, it feels like it's been a million years since I saw you, Big Pug Peralta exclaimed. Suddenly, Little Pug's face fell as she realized the reality of their situation. I know, it would be so fun to play together if we could, said Little Pug. A mischievous smile began to spread across Big Pug's face. Well, would it be that terrible if I crossed the street, suggested Big Pug Peralta. A moment later, in a spiral of color and flashing lights, the 6-foot monster appeared. Ah! Cried Little Pug and Big Pug together as they shielded their eyes and jumped behind trees. Who are you? Why are you here? Big Pug demanded. Little Pug couldn't imagine why this mysterious monster had appeared. She stared at him with wide eyes. I'm here to ensure that you stay 6 feet apart during these shelter-in-place times, roared the monster. Okay, yes, we promise, Little Pug and Big Pug replied quietly. I don't believe you, screamed the 6-foot monster. Suddenly, another swirl of light and color descended, and both the 6-foot monster and Big Pug disappeared. Now, Little Pug was truly terrified. Where could Big Pug be? Her instincts told her that he was safe and sound. Perhaps the 6-foot monster just sent him home, she thought to herself. After gathering her courage, Little Pug continued her walk to Big Pug's house, glancing over her shoulder every so often to make sure she was safe. When she arrived, what a sight to see! There was a giant force field surrounding Big Pug's house. Okay, I'm going to pause there. So as you can see, whenever a character was moving from one scene to the next, or from one place to another, or whenever some new action was introduced, I used a transition word. So here I used after because there was a moment when Little Pug had to gather her courage, and then after that she was ready to walk again. Here I use when as my transition word because Little Pug was walking and now she's arriving at Big Pug's house and she sees something new. I used suddenly here because there was new action that was introduced. There was a swirl of light and colors. I used this moment later to describe how a little bit of time had passed and suddenly the 6-foot monster appeared. And here again, I also use suddenly to show how Little Pug's changing, her emotions are changing. So your job today is to use transition words whenever there's a new action that's introduced, time has passed, or the character is moving to a new setting. Be sure to think about whether you should be using a beginning transition word, a middle transition word, or an ending word. I can't wait to see how your writing goes today. Keep up the great work. See you soon.